Hello everyone, welcome back to another tier list video. Today, I will be re-ranking the top 15 pound for pound fighters. So what does this mean? I'm going to take every single fighter in the top 15 pound for pound on the UFC's homepage and rank them 1 through 15, or maybe why, because maybe some don't deserve to be on the top 15 pound for pound list, but give my overall take on every single individual fighter and give my reasoning to why I believe they should be ranked this instead of what the UFC has them. It will be from left to right. So a guy on the very far left will be that number one spot in every single category. If you don't understand, just watch the video. It's fairly easy to grasp, but let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. Starting off with, we have my boy here, Islam Makhachev. This one I think is really easy starting out. He will sit firmly in this top 5 spot. He beat Volkanovski twice. What do I have to say? He beat basically the number 1 pound for pound guy twice. He beat him by a controversial decision the first time, and then he flatline KO'd him. Not really flatline KO'd him, but he KO'd him, TKO'd him very convincingly in the first round. In the second fight, he also beat Charles Oliveira for the belt, which, in my opinion, is another top 15 pound for pound guy. Islam deserves to be in the top 5 of the pound for pound list, and arguably number 1. I think he is ranked number 1 right now, but in my opinion, he just doesn't have what this guy has at the best category. You can definitely argue him to be number 1 on the pound for pound list. I wouldn't hate that. Again, this list is very opinionated. In terms of overall resume, I think he just sits at that number 2 spot. So he will probably, actually, no, not probably, he will be sitting right here on the very far left of the top 5 spot, number 2 officially in my books. But moving on, up next, we have Alexandre Pantoja. Now, at first, when I was first creating this list, sorry, he's over here to the very far right, my bad. But when I was first creating this list, I kind of was like, you know what, Pantoja, easy top 15 guy. But I kind of thought about it for a second. He's a top 10 guy, simply a top 10 guy. He has some really underrated wins on his resume. He beat Manel Kape, which is a great win right now. He beat Royval, who he will be rematching up here soon. He also beat Brandon Moreno, technically twice, technically 3 times, but he has 2 official wins in the UFC over Brandon Moreno, who was the past champion. Pantoja's number 10, man. Now, what keeps him from being in the top 5 spot is the fact that he lost to Davison Figueiredo. He has lost to Askar Askarov, who has since left the UFC. So that kind of keeps him away from that top 5 spot. But top 15, I think, is criminal for Pantoja, man. He has proven to us that he is an elite flyweight and pound for pound, a top 10 guy. Moving on, up next, we will grab from the bottom part of the screen here, and we will put in Max freaking Holloway. Now, this one is kind of tricky, and this might get some people a bit heated here, but I'm putting Max Holloway in the top 5. I have to. This guy, if Volk wasn't around, if Volk never existed, Holloway would probably be pound for pound number 1 at this point. Maybe number 2, but I think he would firmly sit in the top 5 pound for pound spot. He has beaten everybody at featherweight. He beat Arnold Allen. Great win. Yair Rodriguez, great win. Brian Ortega, great win. TKZ, the Korean Zombie, not so much of a great win now, but still a very solid win. He has pretty much ran through the top 5 of featherweight, and he deserves to be in the top 5. I know he's not a champion, and that kind of brings him down some points, but I think in terms of a guy who is definitely one of the best fighters in the UFC, I think pound for pound, you got to put Holloway top 5, man. Again, if Volk never existed, he would be, in my opinion, top 3 no matter what. He would have a crazy resume at that point. Imagine if every single fight he has had so far as a non-champion, he was a champion. Oh my God, his legacy would be absolutely insane. But in terms of the now, how good is Max Holloway currently in the UFC world? He is, in my opinion, top 5 guy, or top 5 level to fix my English. Max Holloway, top 5. You can debate this. You can put him top 10. I wouldn't mind that either, but I think this guy is definitely 100% top 5. Moving on, up next, we have this guy, Aljamain Sterling. I want to put Sterling at top 10, but I think I have to put him at top 15, maybe top 10. I'm going to put him at top 10 for now. We'll change it later. We'll see what happens. But I think top 10 for now. This guy has, again, people like to shit on Aljo. I know that that knee he took against Petr Yan was very controversial. People like to shit on him a lot. But he does have some very, very good title defenses. He is arguably top one, top two bantamweight behind Dominic Cruz right now. He won the rematch against Petr Yan. He won against TJ Dillashaw. He beat Henry Cejudo, who was coming back, who was a past double champion. I mean, come on, dude. This guy has some really, some really solid wins. I'll put him behind Pantoja for now because he's not a champion, but you can argue him being ahead of Pantoja, but I'm going to put him behind Pantoja for now just for the fact that he isn't a champion currently. But overall, Aljamain Sterling, man, has some really good wins, and we have to put some respect on his name. But we have to move on, and up next, I'm going to move on to Leon Edwards. Leon, top 5. Come on. Got to. Beat number 1 pound for pound twice. The second time, he beat him more convincingly, and I think that is definitely enough to put him in the top 5. You can put him in top 10, but I think top 5 for beating Usman twice, and the second time being way more convincing, has to kind of put him in the top 5. I mean, you beat the pound for pound number 1 guy 2 times in a row, back to back, and make the second one look somewhat easy, kind of. Not, I wouldn't say easy, but make it look convincing and clear that you're the better guy than the number 1 guy in the world. I mean, top 5, it is what it is. But you still can definitely put him down in top 10. I wouldn't hate that. Some of his past wins haven't aged the best, like Donald Cerrone didn't age that good. Brian Barberena didn't age that good, and he got hurt in that fight as well. RDA was a good win at the time, but now it's kind of falling off a little bit, so that can kind of duck him some points, and that's why I'll put him maybe a little bit behind Max Holloway. I might put him in front of Max Holloway. We'll see. I'll do a whole rearranging of the rankings once I get the tier list made. So right now he'll sit behind Holloway, but don't be surprised if I do move him above Holloway because he has that championship advantage. Being a current champion right now does kind of give you some plus points over some of these guys who aren't champions right now. But Leon Edwards, in my opinion, definitely belongs in the top 5 as of right now. Top 10, again, I wouldn't hate, but top 5 for me. Moving on, again, we're going to go ahead and pick out this guy, Israel Adesanya. Top 10. Top 10. Again, not a champion, so he loses some points, but that history is there with Adesanya. He defended his belt, I think, like 5 times, then lost it to Pereira, won it back against Pereira, and then lost it to Strickland. So he kind of deserves to be in the pound for pound list for sure because of his past resume. He will go down as a Hall of Famer down the line once he retires, but right now I think he deserves top 10 because of his history. We'll see what happens, man. He might lose down the line, and that might duck him down the top 15. Eventually might get him out of the rankings entirely, but I think right now, as things stand, he deserves to be in the top 10, not top 5, simply because he's not a champion anymore. It sucks. You lose points because you're not a champion, because you have to be the best in your division to be considered a top 5 guy, besides Max Holloway, because he is the one exception, because he has beaten everybody that isn't Volkanovski at featherweight. But top 5, again, wouldn't hate you putting him up to top 5. There's some solid arguments for some of these guys that you can put them higher or lower. I don't hate it all. Again, don't flood my comment section giving me a bunch of hate. This is totally opinionated, but I'm giving some facts to it, and you can definitely argue that this fact is better than that fact. It's very semantical, but you can definitely argue for anybody on this list, anybody to be higher or lower. But I think Adesanya deserves to be top 10 because of the fact that he doesn't have a belt anymore. He lost to Pereira, and he lost to Strickland, and he lost to Jan Blachowicz, who right now isn't a champion in his own division. So top 10 for Israel Adesanya. And we're going to move on to the next guy, who shall be, if I can find it real quick, bam, Tommy Aspinall. Tom Aspinall, top 15. He just won the belt. He really isn't even the champion of his division, so that kind of knocks him some points. He is the interim title holder as of right now. Yeah, there's not really much to it. I mean, not the most solid wins at heavyweight as well. I mean, he beat Marcin Tybura. He beat Sergey Spivak. Again, like, his resume isn't the most incredible resume that you've ever seen ever, but he did beat Sergey Pavlovich by first round TKO, which is a solid win. He's an interim champion. You can kind of argue to put him in the Y category because, again, he's only interim champ. He's not actually the full-fledged undisputed champion at heavyweight. So why? I wouldn't hate it. You can't put him top 10 because, again, resume, and he's not really the full undisputed champion at heavyweight. But I think top 15 sits perfectly well with Tom Aspinall. In the future, I can see him, getting very high on this list. He can be top 10 by next year. He can be top 5 by next year. He can even be the best by next year. If he beats Jon Jones, maybe like once and then a rematch, he beats him again, he definitely can be top 1 for the pound for pound list. But again, I'm talking about right now. I'm not projecting into the future. Right now, he is top 15, which is still very good. Don't get me wrong, but I just think he's lacking some of that credentials to put him any higher. So Tom Aspinall, top 15 with the potential to go higher later down or sometime in the near future. But we're going to move on to our next guy, who shall be Charles Oliveira du Bronx. Top 10. Top 10. I'm going to put him behind Israel Adesanya and probably behind Aljamain. No, sorry, in front of Aljamain Sterling. My bad. I think Charles Oliveira is indeed a top 10 guy. Let me look at his resume. He beat Gaethje. He beat Poirier. He beat Chandler. He lost to Islam. So again, he's losing those points because he's not a champion. But overall, Oliveira is definitely one of the best guys to ever do it in the UFC. I think he will be a Hall of Famer somewhere down the line. He is the most submissions in UFC history. I mean, he has everything you need to be a pound for pound guy. He beat Beneil Dariush. He has very solid wins under his belt as well. It's just the fact that he doesn't have the most title defenses of all time. Again, that Justin Gaethje win doesn't count as a title defense on record. I know, me personally, I do count it as a title defense. I think he actually made weight. I think the committee screwed him over. But I mean, at this point, he's beaten so many guys. He's been a champion before. He's deserving of top 10. He's number 6 on the official rankings list. I'm ducking him down to probably be, number 8 maybe on this list. We'll see when the list fully finishes. But still, Oliveira is a top 10 guy, 100% in my opinion. His resume speaks for itself. His accomplishments speak for themselves. I mean, he has everything you need to be a top 10 guy pound for pound right now. Now, if he goes on a losing streak, obviously he'll go down. But right now, as things stand, he is, again, one of the best guys in the UFC pound for pound. Moving on, up next again. Sorry, I'm saying up next a fuck ton. But we're going to move on to Kamaru Usman. Now, this one might get people very angry. I'm putting Usman halfway between Y, halfway. Nah, I'm putting him in the Y category just for now. He might go in the top 15. You know what I mean? I don't know why Usman's in the rankings right now. I don't know why. Let's be honest here. Usman's on a 3-fight losing streak. He lost to Leon Edwards twice. First time, he was winning and then he got head kicked. Second time, he lost very clear and convincingly. I know he was pound for pound number 1. He has a very good resume at welterweight. But I mean, listen, beating Jorge Masvidal twice, really ain't that much. Beating Colby Covington twice is nice, but I mean, again, that's the same guy you beat twice, and you arguably had a draw with him in the rematch. And then Gilbert Burns obviously is a very, very good win. But overall, he's only beaten 3 guys as a champion, and right now, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. 2, again, Leon Edwards, and now Khamzat Chimaev. And I know Chimaev is a middleweight, but this is a pound for pound list. And so, I mean, pound for pound, you still lost to Khamzat Chimaev, even though I think that fight was overall a draw. I think he got 10-8 in the first round, then he won the second 2. So, I mean, technically, in my flourishing opinion, Usman had a draw with Khamzat Chimaev, so that might put him to top 15. No way. Okay, we're fine. Sorry, but there's kind of some other guys who I kind of think right now are somewhat more deserving to be on the pound for pound list than Kamaru Usman. Look at Merab Dvalishvili. I mean, this guy is pretty much the best guy at bantamweight, even with Sean O'Malley. We'll get to him in a second, but Merab should probably be on the pound for pound list. Cejudo kind of has a spot there deserving. Whitaker and DDP have, some arguments to be on there. There are several guys in the UFC right now that kind of have an argument to be on this pound for pound list and take that spot of Kamaru Usman. So you kind of can make a good argument for Usman to be in the top 15. I don't mind it, but in my opinion, I think there's guys right now who aren't on 3-fight losing streaks and who look really good and have the potential to be a future champion, who should be probably in the top 15 pound for pound. I know I put him in the Y category, which kind of has a negative stigma to it, but overall, I mean, Usman is top 20, obviously, but the cutoff is top 15, which sucks. But I kind of wanted to make a little bit of an antagonizing video, so I'm gonna put Usman at why. No shade, no hate towards Usman, but I think again some guys have a better argument who again aren't on 3-fight losing streaks to be in this top 15 list. Moving on, we will transition to, it's a better way to say it, Sean O'Malley. Malley is top 15. I'll put him ahead of Tom Aspinall as of right now, but Sean O'Malley I think is top 15. He was kind of babied into getting his title shot against Sterling. Let's be honest here. He beat Jan and he beat Sterling. That's really about it. I mean, before that, he beat what? Hallie Pava? Not in the UFC anymore. Chris Moutinho? Not in the UFC anymore. Eddie Wineland? Lost to Vera? Like, I mean, let's be real here. O'Malley really only has the belt and the win against Sterling, and then he has a win over Jan, which again, I know it's Jan, he's crazy, but that win also hasn't aged the best since then. O'Malley is firmly a champion, and I kind of hesitate to put him over Sterling here. I might flip that, maybe. I don't know. Again, I'll rearrange the list later, but I just think Sterling has a better resume, and he's arguably top 2 in the bantamweight discussion, and O'Malley just doesn't have the wins right now or the resume to really put him high on this list. I mean, he can definitely potentially somewhere down the line deserve a top 10, top 5 spot, or maybe even the best at some point, but again, he's just lacking in that resume department. He doesn't have very good wins, and he was kind of pushed like a baby to the top of bantamweight. But again, O'Malley is one of my more favorite fighters, and I think he will, if he does reclaim that win and get back against Chito Vera, that does probably put him in the top 10 part. But again, Chito Vera isn't the best win. He just lost to Corey Sandhagen very convincingly. I mean, I don't really know. O'Malley is getting babied pretty hard by the UFC, so I think top 15 does suit him well with the potential to move up the top 10, top 5. But as of right now, again, I think he's top 15 with that kind of less than ideal resume that he has. Moving on, up next, we have Alex Pereira, top 10, beat Israel Adesanya. I'll probably put him ahead of him, but he beat Israel Adesanya. He beat Strickland, who is now champion at middleweight. He beat Jan Blachowicz, who was champion at light heavyweight, and now he just beat Jiri Prochazka. I think that puts him in the top 10. I know he got killed by Israel Adesanya, but he since has kind of redeemed himself with that win over Jan Blachowicz. He kind of deserves to be in this top 10 spot with the way that he's beaten some guys who have aged quite well for him. Strickland has aged very, very well from the time that they fought each other. Israel Adesanya is a very, very, very great win. Blachowicz, again, a former champion. I can go through these guys again, but I think his wins speak for itself. I mean, this guy, Peloton, is legit, man. He's top 10. He is a top 10 pound for pound guy, and he has done it in multiple weight classes, which gets him some more points because he can fight at middleweight and he can fight at light heavyweight, which is more enticing to put him higher on a pound for pound list because he is, obviously proving that he is pound for pound one of the best fighters in the UFC. Peloton, not much argument to this. You could put him in top 5. I wouldn't mind him being top 5 at all. I mean, it's a good argument to put him top 5, even over Holloway. I don't mind top 5 at all. You have a very strong case for it, but I think top 10 for now sits well with me. Moving on, we have a couple more guys left. I got to find them on the side of the thing here. But here we got Jiri Prochazka. I'm going to put him at why. And you're going to ask me, why? Why are you putting Jiri Prochazka in the why category? Why is he not a top 15 pound for pound guy? The wins for Jiri Prochazka just don't really seem that amazing. I mean, he beat Volkanovski. He got rocked in that fight, but Volkanovski is kind of aging kind of well, but isn't the greatest one you've ever seen. He beat Dominic Reyes, which is now aging terribly. I mean, you could argue that Jiri kind of took his chin, but again, that win is not aging very well. And then he did manage to beat Glover Teixeira, which again is a very, very, very solid win. But he was losing that fight and then pulled out a rear naked choke in that 5th round to come back and win in an absolute war. But overall, I think there's some guys who were kind of outside of the top 15 pound for pound list who do have a better case than Jiri Prochazka. Again, Merab Dvalishvili has a better case in the top 15 pound for pound. Not really, because he hasn't been champion yet, but there's some guys I think kind of should work their way and kind of flush Jiri out, especially since that Jiri is now lost to Alex Pereira. Also, he was out for a very long time. I think by natural progression, some guys should kind of move into that top 15 pound for pound spot and have Jiri naturally move out because he was so inactive for so long, but he didn't lose his belt technically. So I can kind of understand you can put Jiri top 15. I don't mind you putting like this guy's top 15. The white category is kind of pointless. Let's be honest here, because these guys, if they're not top 15, they're top 20. So I'll put them at top 15 just for the sake of not looking like a complete idiot. But I mean, why? Yeah. Just know for the fact that these guys can be easily flushed out of the top 15 pound for pound later down the future. But it is an argument, man, for them to be in the top 15, but also is an argument for them not to be in the top 15 pound for pound. It is what it is. But moving on to our last guy, the guy who I think is the best guy in the UFC right now, who should be number 1 pound for pound. He's actually ranked number 2 in the pound for pound list. I'm lying. We're missing one guy. And that is Sean Strickland. I kind of already spoiled it. Don't look it up just yet. I'm going to put Sean Strickland in the top 10. Sorry, but I'm going to move Poatan into that top 5 category. How about that? And we'll put Strickland at top 10. Strickland does have some good wins. Obviously, he dominated Israel Adesanya, which will put him ahead of this list once I, restructure it. He beat Abis Magomedov, which I guess is not the greatest win since he just lost to Kai Baralho. He beat Nasruddin Mavlov, which is kind of a good win. So Strickland's wins outside of Israel Adesanya aren't the best, so I think he does deserve a top 10 spot, especially since he hasn't defended his belt just yet. But beating Israel Adesanya is a great win, but Adesanya at the time was coming off, that rematch win. Before that, he lost to Alex Pereira, but he's coming off that win against Pereira. So it wasn't like he was fighting in Adesanya. He was coming off a 10-fight win streak. Not the best Adesanya we've ever seen. So I think he deserves to be in the top 10. He did lose to Cannonier at one point. He lost to Alex Pereira at one point. So he does kind of deserve to be lower on this list. You could put him top 15. I wouldn't mind that either. But I'm putting him at top 10 because he dominated Israel Adesanya so badly. He whooped on him for 5 rounds and dropped him in the first. He does deserve to be top 10 just for that performance alone. But like I alluded to earlier, the number 1, the best guy in the UFC right now, I think, is obviously Jon Jones. Let's be real here. Jon Jones should always be number 1 pound for pound. His resume, he is arguably the GOAT in the sport. He beat Cyril Gane by first round submission. He's 2-time weight champion in light heavyweight and now heavyweight. He deserves to be number 1 pound for pound. And I know he popped for roids. I know he's a despicable human being. I don't like him at all. But in terms of what the UFC acknowledges, they acknowledge him as a, GOAT in their sport. And this list is based off of the current pound for pound rankings and what the UFC has. So I kind of have to put him in this video, even though I don't credit popping for roids as part of my GOAT list, but the UFC does. And so now I kind of have to, just for the purposes of this video. But Jon Jones, again, he's the GOAT. I don't need to say much about it. If you don't count roids, he is 100% the GOAT of the UFC and MMA history. And I think putting your GOAT at less than number 1 pound for pound is kind of disgusting, because I think if this guy is your GOAT, he is the best guy in UFC history, you market him as your GOAT. Putting him less than number 1 on pound for pound is stupid. It's dumb. Put him at number 1. He deserves it. Not really, but if you don't count him popping for roids, he deserves it. He should be number 1 on the best. He shouldn't be number 2. His resume is better than anybody else on this list. I mean, he has so many defenses. He has so many wins. He has so many credible names that he's beaten in the past. I mean, Jon Jones is in, winning and being successful and being the GOAT of the UFC, which is what it is. I don't like him as a person, but he is. But let's rearrange this list real quick and let's really break down the nitty gritty and who I actually think, list-wise, who I would have 1 through 15. And number 1, obviously, Jon Jones. Number 2, definitely Islam Makhachev. I'm going to keep Max Holloway. I'm gonna put Poatan right behind at number 3, maybe put him at number 3 because he is, the light heavyweight champion. Put Holloway back here at number 5. I'm going to go ahead and put Strickland up here above these guys because he is a champion. He gets those championship points. Adesanya is going to be ahead of Sterling and I think ahead of Oliveira because he has that many title defenses. So let's get this list right real quick. This list all nice and pretty. That sits well with me. I like that. Obviously, these two, yep, this sits perfectly well with me, just like this. 1 through 15. Okay, so real quick, guys, I realized that I fucked up and I didn't put Volkanovski on the list. I messed up entirely. Just know, as of right now, I have Volk at number 3. So on the final tier list video, I have Volk ranked number 3 because, again, Volk has some of the best wins. He beat Max Holloway, 3 times? Great win. He has a defense over Ortega, defense over Yair. Overall, he's probably the best featherweight of all time. So, of course, he goes on number 3 in the top 5. I don't know how I forgot him in the video, but just keep this in mind. This is my official rankings right here. Volk is number 3 officially in my bag. I know I always mess up something with these videos. Last time it was, I forgot the flyweight rankings at one point, but this is my official list right here. I brought down Max Holloway 1 because I had to make room for Volk, obviously, because he wouldn't be top 5 anymore. Max Holloway wouldn't. So I brought him down 1. It is what it is. I pushed Strickland down 1 to top 15 now because it is what it is. You can still argue this. I don't mind you arguing any of these. It is. I fucked up. I simply did. But I don't think it ruined the video. A lot of my points still stand true. But I think that Volk is number 3. So kind of interject a little bit with Volk being there instead of Poatan being there when I do, kind of eventually dive back into the actual video in current time. But me from the future believes that this is the true tier list. I'm sorry, guys. It is what it is. But I think Jon Jones is the best. This is the fully rearranged list. Sorry. I'm so sorry. But like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon for notifications so you get notified every single time that I post a video. I'm out of here, guys. My full list: Jon Jones 1, Islam 2, Volk 3, Poatan 4, Edwards 5, and you can count the rest. I'm not going to count for you. You guys aren't stupid. At least I assume you aren't. But you can count the rest. This is my full official list. I think this list was pretty, I would say, agreeable. I don't think there's too many hot takes in there. Maybe the Usman, maybe the Jiri one you can kind of really get on me for. But overall, I think this list kind of does make sense. If you do have a differing opinion, let me know in the comment section. Let me know what your opinion is, what spots that I missed, what I missed in the video entirely, what you think that these guys should be ranked higher or lower. Let me know what you guys think. Please, I love your guys' feedback, your comments. I read them all, or most of them. Some of them I don't, but I read most of your guys' comments. I'm out of here again. Peace, like, and subscribe. I'm out of here. See you guys. Peace. Again, peace.